Okay, so fibromyalgia. I was interested in this only not so long ago, and the reason is that I was living abroad, as you can probably hear from my accent. I'm Scottish, and I was born in Scotland. But when I was 20, I left Scotland and I went to live abroad, mostly in Germany and Italy, Portugal, and Spain. At the time, I had already been studying macrobiotics for 2 years. So I started when I was 18, and now I've been studying for, I would say, about 45 years, and it's still ongoing. So the reason then that I got interested in macrobiotics was because I was a sick boy, and I had a very bad blood disease. I don't have that anymore. And I feel absolutely fantastic, and that's most of the time. So I was about to say the reason why it interested me to speak about fibromyalgia was because when I came back then to Scotland after so many years, I hooked up with my sister again, and I got to know her because we hadn't been in contact so much up until that time because of my traveling and not being back in my hometown. And she explained to me then that for many years she had been suffering from fibromyalgia. And at that time, I didn't know so much about it, so I started to look into it and said to her immediately, of course, change your diet, change your lifestyle, and change your way of thinking and reflect upon why you think this came around, which she did. And of course, then she was able to see progress, and slowly it started to get better. It's not completely gone yet because she only started maybe like a couple of months ago. But she has seen progress already. Now, fibromyalgia, what does it mean? Fibro is coming from Latin, really. This is the Latin name. It does have a new name, which is encephalitis/chronic fatigue syndrome, which is very new, maybe only in the last year or so that's being used, but most people know this by its old name, fibromyalgia. Fibro meaning fibrous tissue, my meaning muscle, and algia, pain. And I would just like to bring up now a PowerPoint. I'm going to share the screen. Is that okay?
Sure.
Right.
And what was the M-I or
M-I, muscle.
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 Mm-hmm.
As in Popeye and his muscles. So can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my little PowerPoint presentation that I've put together, and I would like to just get into this. So in the beginning, I'm going to give you an explanation of how allopathic medicine views this. And afterwards, then, in the second half, I'll give you an explanation on macrobiotic understanding and how we as macrobiotic teachers will explain this. So first of all, then here, fibromyalgia, there it is again, fibro, meaning fibrous tissue, my, muscle, and algia, meaning pain, coming from the Latin language. Into the first slide here, and fibromyalgia syndrome, shortened then FMS. You will see this, and it will say then FMS in the next lines instead of always repeating this very long word. It is a complex chronic condition causing widespread pain and profound fatigue.
Ken, if you want to double click on those slides, it might bring it expanded for us.
Expanded, let me see if I can get a...
Or full screen.
I can do that. How does that look?
There, that's better.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can just... Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so complex chronic condition causing widespread pain and profound fatigue, plus a variety of other symptoms. Now, this is what my sister was complaining about. She would have pain throughout her body. It affects primarily muscles, tendons, and ligaments. But unlike arthritis, there is no inflammation. No inflammation accompanies fibromyalgia syndrome. That's what makes it very different to all the arthritic problems and rheumatism or other muscle pain or body pain that you can experience. The joints of the body are also not directly affected. Pain is usually described as aching or burning and is very unpredictable in nature. One day it can be in one part of the body, the next day in another part of the body, and it can move around much like it would be with rheumatism, but of course there is no inflammation. The severity then varies from day to day. There is an explanation for that, and I will leave that for the macrobiotic understanding. Allopathic medicine does not give any explanation to that. Different body parts are affected also at different times. My sister then also obviously is saying all these things to me, and I'm taking notes, and that's why I started to get interested to look more deeply into this. Yeah, so let's see here. Yeah. Furthermore, then, fibromyalgia syndrome pain can be severe and disabling, while in others it may cause only mild discomfort. And we have to ask ourselves why that is, why some people have a lot of pain, why others don't have much pain at all. The fatigue then can be from a mild tired feeling to all-consuming exhaustion. And looking at my sister then on occasions, it is like that. On some days, she's perfectly okay. She can say to me, yes, I have a little pain here and there, but it's okay for the moment. I'm able to live with it. I can go on. I can do my life the way I want it. But on other days, it's like she's completely consumed. She's lying in bed or she's loafing around the house, not doing anything. And she's just complaining that this is so bad and so intense that she doesn't want to do anything at all other than just lie and not move. Let's have a look at more symptoms here. So, in addition to pain and fatigue, other symptoms are sleep disturbance. Now, maybe it's that the people, they just can't get to sleep and it takes hours for them to go over. It could also be that they wake up during the night in pain. And of course, this pain is keeping them awake and they can't get back to sleep again. There is something else as well, and that is that these people can experience something which is known as Restless Leg Syndrome. But it can be happening in all of the body, where all of the body just feels like it's twitching or it needs to move and it's painful. And so these people, what they feel that they have to do is they have to just get up and move, because their body is saying, I'm restless and I need to move. So the sleep is disturbed. These people then awake, then tired and unrested. And that will last throughout the whole day. There is then, when the people wake up in the morning, eventually after they've had some sleep, stiffness in the body. The body is very stiff, it can't move. Something is happening where during the night, something is happening to the joints and the muscles and the sinews, the tendons, where there is stiffness. Every limb, every movement is stiff, and it takes a while for the people then to get into some kind of fluidity. Now, this is where those people usually then turn to drinking coffee. That's to wake them up or to get them moving, hot black tea, which is not the best solution. It will be a symptomatic solution for maybe a couple of hours, but afterwards all of that comes back again. The stiffness will go away towards the nighttime, but of course in the next morning stiffness comes back again. There is also then increased headaches or facial pain. Aches and pains, headaches, it goes together. Facial pain, it's not in everyone, but in a lot of people, they do also get facial pain, and that's all over the face. Abdominal discomfort, this is more along the lines of irritable bowel syndrome symptoms, where you have bloating, where you have a lot of gas, and it's very uncomfortable because you're moving around with something which is not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be not bloated and not have gas and not be uncomfortable. So irritable bladder, the difference here between that and cystitis or bladder infection is that there is no infection. There is an irritable bladder, but there's no infection. There's no inflammation. But the people then are getting the message that they have to go to the bathroom. Maybe some urine will be passed, but it's usually only drops. But they have this sensation that they have to do that. Numbness or tingling. In the medicinal world, in the medicine world, this is called paresthesia. Now, maybe you can imagine, and I'm sure everyone's experienced this, you're sitting down and you're cross-legged, or you're, let's say, you've got one leg over the other, and you don't notice it, but after a while, your leg has fallen asleep. And when you start to move it, then you get all these pins and needles. Well, that's the effect or the symptom that these people have then, oftentimes all through their body. It's not only about having it in an arm or a leg, but maybe it's in both arms, maybe it's in both legs, and maybe it's also in the feet or in the hands. Chest pain then, you could call this costochondralgia, that's the medical term for that. It's initially the breastbone where the ligaments then are connected to the ribs. You will get also pain here. Just a word of caution that if someone is complaining about chest pain, then maybe you also have to look into other possibilities. It could also be something concerning the heart. And if you're unsure about that, then it is better to get that person checked up with a doctor to see what's going on before you try any alternative methods. Cognitive disorders. Now, these cognitive disorders, which my sister had as well, brain fog and spaciness, being spaced out, not being able to concentrate and put emphasis on particular things that she was doing. She would misplace her keys. She would misplace her book that she was reading. She would start something, go away, then forget about it, like the ironing, and she would scotch the ironing board, etc. So this spaciness then is quite common there in fibromyalgia, as is also memory lapse or loss of memory for a while. That's not being able to remember even what you were doing minutes before. And even when you go back to that place where you think you lost that memory, you just can't find out what that memory was. So memory lapse, also being clumsy, like letting things fall down, not being so precise in the things that you're doing. Then there is also disequilibrium, where people can experience dizziness or balance problems. Environmental sensitivity, now this can manifest in allergic-like reactions. Even although you haven't been diagnosed with any allergy, you can have also allergies to everything. Anything that's in the house, any food that you eat, any pollen that's around, even just touching a wall could give you an allergy from the paint that's on there, a reaction to that. There could also be sensitivity to light, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to odors, and sensitivity also to the weather patterns, how weather changes from cold to warm, from dry to humid, etc. There can also be dryness of the skin, dryness of the eyes, and dryness of the mouth, because of some kind of environmental sensitivity. Yeah, so that's most of the symptoms there. I'm going to leave it. There are other ones as well, but these are the main ones which you will find in most people. So here I'm showing you a picture of fibromyalgia tender points. For me, this is interesting to see because these points are also quite well-known acupuncture points, and they're given an indication where meridians, that's the energy channels in the body, are crossing over, or these meridian points are points where you can manipulate energy very easily with a needle. So you see here a picture of a lady, I think it is, from the front and also then from the back. Left is from the front, right is from the back. Different meridians there. That's spleen meridian, large intestine, stomach. I would say also there you have the bladder meridian and gallbladder meridian. Maybe there's also one or two others, but that's the main ones there. So interestingly enough, currently there's no diagnostic test existing allopathically for FMS, Fibromyalgia Syndrome. There is no blood test, there is no hormone test, there is no electrolytic test, there is no test at all where the doctors will say, right, we're going to test to see if you have fibromyalgia. Instead, what the doctors do is they will have a look to see if you have continuous pain and if you have a certain number of tender points. So the doctor then will monitor you after you have gone into his practice, and the doctor will say, right, do you have pain in all four quadrants of your body? That's upper left, upper right, lower left, and lower right. And if that pain persists then in those quadrants for 3 months, that is one sign that you may have fibromyalgia. Then if you have 11 out of 18 of these possible points, these are 18 points here on the picture that I've shown you, in this period, over 3 months, then you're diagnosed as having fibromyalgia syndrome. Now, fibromyalgia syndrome was, for a long time, it wasn't even believed to exist, to be true. It was in the late 80s, early 90s where this first came around that doctors were starting to say, yes, more and more people are getting this. At that time, approximately 1 in 50 people were diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Today, it's 1 in 20, so that's getting more and more. And here in the UK, for a long time, it was not diagnosed. It was not a sickness where it was diagnosed to be a reason to stay off work or a reason to have medication or even a reason to have somebody prescribe you some therapies. So, no cure. There is what the allopathic medicine says is there is no cure. You can get some kind of relief from medications and possibly some therapies. but otherwise there is no cure. I'll just go back to that again. Sorry, I was going to mention something else. The medication that would be recommended would be to increase serotonin. Serotonin will be able to relieve pain and give you a better sleep. They will recommend ibuprofen. They will recommend aspirin and other medicines. For example, for allergies, they will recommend antihistamines. The physical therapy that they will recommend would be something like ultrasound, chiropractic exercise and to increase blood circulation, stretching, low impact exercise, walking. That's not strenuous walking, but not just taking a stroll, walking so that you stimulate your blood circulation. Also on treadmills, and they would recommend also exercise in warm water. So that's what the allopathic medicine would do there. So here then, this slide, I've already put it up before, but I didn't say anything. I've put this up because this is going to give you an idea of where we are in the 7 stages of sickness. Now, maybe you've already worked it out. In fact, I've colored this in different colors there. The 7 stages of sickness also reflect at what stage of toxicity and acidity your body is getting into. The first stage of sickness is fatigue and tiredness. Now, just to explain that away, let's have a look at that. So what happens is, if you're born healthy and you have a healthy upbringing and your diet is relatively good, then you can say you're a healthy adult, and for years and years and years, you can go without having any fatigue or tiredness. Unfortunately, today, also young people are getting fatigued and tired. And why is that? Well, the first reason I would say for fatigue and tiredness is a buildup of toxins and acidity in the body. Now, when acidity gets into the bloodstream, there are many mechanisms to take that acidity out. And one of them is to activate the neutralization process of calcium, which you will get from the bones. Calcium is an alkaline mineral, and it will then be able to neutralize that acidity in the blood. And this can go on for a long time before you become fatigued and tired. And this happens very quickly as well. When, for example, let's just take an example there. I go outside and I eat a nice big ice cream. Well, let's say at that moment then, after it gets into my bloodstream, all that sugar and dairy and maybe also toxins and colorings. So acidity is being accumulated in the blood. Now, very quickly, your body reacts and that acidity will be neutralized. But where does that acidity go? Well, it goes mainly to the liver. The liver is the place where toxins and acidity then are broken down in a chemical process to be discharged by the body, and then it's finished, it's done. But if I was to take that ice cream every day, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day, then these toxins and acidity would build up until eventually the liver is overwhelmed. So you can imagine now, after having said that, ice cream every day, that was just an example, it can be many other things, of course, but then after fatigue and tiredness, the aches and pains, they start to come along. So the body has come to a stage where it's not able to discharge the excesses, process the toxins, and things are starting to build up. Initially, what was said also in the last talk there, where toxins are starting to build up over toxins. And because of that, then you're going to get different symptoms. The first one is fatigue and tiredness. Further along the line, you're going to get aches and pains. Again, further along the line, blood diseases will start to raise their ugly head. Anemia, just to mention one. And then, of course, when your organs and organ systems are not receiving the correct nutrition and there are many toxins going around and there's acidity, then your organs are going to be affected. And your organs then, as you have maybe seen, or maybe you haven't, but we have something which is called the 5 transformations or the 5 elements theory. And in there, you can find that each organ and organ system has allocated to it a positive emotion and a negative emotion. So what happens there then is when you get to this stage, already before, but this stage is really the culmination of the 3 stages before. I'm talking about the 4th stage then. These negative emotions start to build up more and more and more, and also they are carrying negative energy. So I'm going to stop there and go into the next slide, because that's going to give you more information. I won't go into stage 5, 6, and 7 because that's a different story. We're only here. Important is now that when allopathic medicine looks at this and they look at the organs and organ systems, they will not find any imbalance in the liver, in the kidneys, in the heart, in the lungs, in the intestines, or any other organ or organ system. As far as they're concerned, these organs are still working. Physically, they're perfectly okay. It's only when you get into organ diseases that organs will start to show signs of degeneration and growths and tumors, etc. But at stage 4, there is no change in organ structure. It's still all there. Macrobiotic understanding then here. Just looking at the time, that looks okay. Just wet my palate a little. Macrobiotic understanding. The function of the liver is that of detoxifying the organism. In fibromyalgia syndrome, the liver is overwhelmed by toxins and an overly acidic condition. So the liver is very unique as an organ, not only because it's a chemical factory, let's say, but also because, one, it has a higher temperature, about 3 degrees Celsius more than anywhere else in the body. The other thing is that not only does it receive for itself oxygenated arterial blood, but it has what's called a portal vein, which is taking nutritious blood from the digestive system. So this blood from the digestive system and the blood from the heart, which is oxygenated, mixes then in the liver, and that is why this liver is creating more heat. It's a chemical factory. It's just working all the time. So you can imagine then, if the liver is overwhelmed then by toxins and an overly acidic condition, it cannot achieve that specific function that it's supposed to be doing all the time, and that is to carry that nutrition on to all the cells in the body, but also to clean up. So the kidneys are also cleaning up, but the liver is the big cleaner. That's the big hoover in there. Yeah. So the liver is the most affected organ in fibromyalgia syndrome, since it is also the place where all the emotions are stored. Now, from the 5 transformations theory, you will find that the liver is responsible for all the emotions. And so that's the energetic part, emotional part. The physical part is responsible for body parts, and those body parts are muscles, ligaments, and tendons. The 3 things where this pain is arising in fibromyalgia syndrome. So, emotions, emotional energy. When emotions accumulate in the liver in the form of energy, the liver cannot absorb more energy. This excess is transmitted to the muscles, the tendons, and the ligaments. And this manifests then as pain. There we have it. That's the reason why allopathic medicine has not yet found out why this pain arises where there's no inflammation and there is no structural damage to any of the organs. It's because of this combination of toxins, acidity, and emotions. Emotions being the energetic part there. Yeah. So, what to do about that? Here, I'll put up this slide. This is what I think people should be doing. This is what I've recommended to my sister. To reduce toxins and relieve an overly acidic condition, avoid sugar, chocolate, dairy, fried food, excess oil, alcohol, citrus, spinach, nightshades, red meat, especially pork, seafood, dried fruit, caffeine, chemicals. The caffeine in tea, that's black tea, as well as coffee, but also for those people, I wouldn't even recommend green tea. Bancha tea, cookie cha tea is fine, but green tea not. Chemicals, drugs, artificial colors, preservatives, aspartame, and MSG. Those last 2 are particularly bad, not only in fibromyalgia for everyone, but particularly bad here when you have a tendency to have muscle pain, tendon pain, fibromyalgia. So how to get around that? Well, it's better not to go to the restaurant and just eat any food that they're putting in front of you, because probably you are going to get MSG in there. But what you could do is, if you are going to go to the restaurant, you should say, I'm allergic to MSG. I'm going to have a very strong outbreak. You will have to call the ambulance if there is MSG. So please, if you have it, then tell me. Then I won't eat here. But if you can keep it out, that would be better. Of course, in macrobiotics, we're not going to have MSG. But I'm saying this because people do have a tendency to go out and say, okay, I'm just going to have a little meal here and there. All of the Oriental foods will have MSG. All of the soft drinks will have aspartame or aspartame. Particularly bad as well. Now, this came out not so long ago when the American soldiers were in the Iraq war. They had soft drinks, especially Coca-Cola, but also Fanta and Orangeade or whatever it was. And in the heat then, which rose above 30 degrees, this became a poison, which when the soldiers drank it, they even lost consciousness. Not good. Recommended then here, when you avoid those things, is to adopt a standard macrobiotic way of eating, but to include, now I'm not going to go into any particular vegetables or grains or fruits. I'm just going to give you an idea. If you are doing the standard macrobiotic way of eating, you should be including also umeboshi or gomasio frequently. Now, umeboshi is particularly interesting because it will regulate blood sugar. It will alkalize, and it will also give you lots of minerals. So umeboshi is good Gomasio as well, because each grain of salt is coated in oil from the sesame seeds after crushing. That will transport the salt deep into the body and will alkalize and yangize, as we say in macrobiotics, yangize. It will start to pull you together contractively. So anything with umeboshi is great. Umeboshi tea, but also bancha tea. Bancha tea meaning kuki-cha or hojicha tea is good. Umisho bancha, tamari bancha, and gomasio bancha. I wouldn't recommend so much umisho kudzu because that is very strong. If you are going to take that only for a few days. Now here's one that maybe you've never heard of before, and it's called ranchio. Now ranchio is a combination of a whole fertilized egg and soy sauce. And how you would make that is, I'll explain that very quickly. You break an egg, you whisk it up, and you put, I think, a small tablespoon of soy sauce into there. You whisk it up again, and you drink that. But you're only going to do that for 2 days, not more, because that is very, very strong medicine. Now, the egg itself, of course, is very young, but that's not the reason why you're taking the egg with the soy sauce. The egg is just a transport mechanism because it is pure protein. And the protein will transport that deep into the body, where the soy sauce then is released into the digestive system and will alkalize and yangize your body from there. If you are vegan, of course, you don't have to take that. Then I would recommend that you take something like teka as a condiment, or umi shiso seasoning as a condiment. Umi shiso seasoning is nothing other than umeboshi vinegar, as is sometimes known. And lastly, then my last recommendation is to chew your food very well. Chewing at least 25 times a mouthful. Some people may think that's a lot. It's not really, but what you should do is try and work up to that. So if you're just chewing maybe 5 or 6 times at the moment, work up to 10 times. When you're up to 10 times, work up to 15 times. When you're up to 15 to 20, etc., it would be good eventually to get up to 35 times a mouthful. This is also great for calming your mind. It's like a meditation. Chew, chew, chew. Concentrate on your chewing. You don't have to meditate and concentrate on your breathing. You can do it when you're eating. Chew and relax and chew well. Yeah. So here, helpful alternative approaches. Biofeedback therapy. That's using willpower and the mind to influence automatic functions like heart rate, breathing, and pain. So these things are out there. If you don't know about it, look it up. They do work. It takes a little while, but it does work. Now, breathing is another one. I mentioned breathing in meditation, but you can do breathing without meditation. Just sit down and start breathing. There are many breathing techniques that you could try out, but getting more oxygen into the body is what you want to try and achieve there. You can do that also with yoga. Yoga, stretching, movement, getting more oxygen into the body, but also stretching those ligaments, those muscles, giving them, again, the sensation that they're supposed to be doing something, that they still have life in them. The cells need to be educated. Tai Chi and Qigong, much the same. It's movement. It's soft movement, as it is in yoga as well. You don't have to do the most crazy yoga movements. Just starting off with simple movements is very good, and working up to something else eventually. Stress management. Now, stress management is also just sitting, for example, in the evening on an easy chair in a comfortable position, closing your eyes, no music on, there's no dogs or pets in the background, there's no children running around, you're just in a quiet space. Maybe you have to find that space, but finding it means you're going to be able to come down from your stress eventually and just be with yourself. You could try out Autogenic Training. That's relaxing each muscle in your body, starting from your toe, finishing at your head. You could also do meditation. That's another one. De-stress your body through that. If you can't find a possibility there where there's just something going on in your mind all the time, it's just thoughts are just coming up like waves at the beach, one after the other, then maybe you have to look out for a hypnotist that's just going to put you in a very relaxed state. Acupuncture then is also very good to move that energy around the body. Acupuncturists, they know very well fibromyalgia. They know very well which points to use, and they know very well how to sedate or stimulate specific points as to create balance again. Remember, acupuncture is still a symptomatic medicine, so it's not only to use that, it's also to look upon the aspect of diet and lifestyle, which eventually will give you a lasting cure. So that's it. My recommendations there, my explanation for fibromyalgia, and get well, be well, and stay well. I do have a little bonus here, but maybe we can talk about that in a moment, because that's maybe a question that's going to come up as time goes by. So with that then, all I can say is, if you don't know about it, then have a look at it. Have a look at the 5 transformation theory. Have a look at what Chinese medicine says about the responsibilities of the liver in Chinese medicine. You will find there's some very interesting answers which correspond to fibromyalgia. So I'll just take that out there and I'll put this back on. Let's see. Yeah. And I guess, what time do we have now? Is it okay?
So we have just a few minutes for questions. You could stop your screen share.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that on, because I do have one last screen shot that I would like to show before I go away. It could be a question that comes up, but I'd like to keep it there for a moment.
All right, so anybody with a question, then you can unmute yourself and fire away. This was certainly a informative presentation. How is your sister responding? Not how is she feeling? Is she accepting your recommendations?
She is slowly accepting my recommendations. The thing is with my sister is that she's grown up and lived and worked in a conventional environment and lifestyle all her life. So she's never had really any input as to what alternative possibilities there could have been in her life throughout the years. It's only since I've been back then in Scotland that she's had some recommendations and some inspiration from me. Because also what you find with fibromyalgia patients is that they don't have much self-motivation. They kind of depend on people to say to them what they should do. And that is with my sister as well. So being here, I'm supporting her, and each time I'm with her, I'm giving her some new information. I'm not overwhelming her with a lot of jargon or a lot of terms which she doesn't understand. So I'm trying to keep it very simple and take it step by step, day by day, so that she starts to understand that. I have given her a book, and the one book is Macrobiotics for Dummies by Vern Verona, because I think that is an excellent place to start. Any questions you have about macrobiotics, it will be explained in there.
And is she able to do her own cooking?
Yes, she is. At the moment, it's on an electric cooker, I would have preferred that she got gas, but when I started macrobiotics when I was 18, I was cooking on electric as well. So it doesn't really mean so much. It would have been better for her her reversal of the sickness to cook on gas, because it is a more natural energy which is going into the food, rather than electromagnetic energy, which is disturbing then the food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if nobody has a question, I'd like to give you this little bonus here, and that is a special liver tea that I've thought that is very good. Now, this I got an idea from this from a book, but I have changed it a little. But this liver tea is very good, and it will help you to get better much quicker than if you didn't have this. So I'll just run through this very quickly. For fibromyalgia, liver tea, take 2 parts of buckwheat groats. That's buckwheat groats that have not been roasted. So that's just the regular non-roasted buckwheat groats. 1 part of daikon radish, otherwise called mooli here, mooli radish in the UK. 2 parts of daikon or turnip or radish greens. If you can't find any of those, any other large greens like Savoy cabbage or even, let's say, white cabbage would be okay. 1 part of spring onions, 2 parts sprouts. Now these sprouts can be alfalfa, mung bean or soybean sprouts. And 1 part shiitake mushroom. Shiitake mushroom, if it's 1 part, they're either fresh or dried. If dried, then you'll have to soak it before. Finely chop all the vegetables and mix together with 5 times the total volume of water. Bring to a boil, lower the flame and simmer for about 30 minutes. Strain out the contents and save the liquid. Drink hot. Now this tea you can make more of. You can double the amount if you want to make a few liters, for example. Recommended is to drink this 3 times a day, a cup about this size, right? So 3 times a day. And you can keep this then after you've boiled it up, after it's been cooled, in the refrigerator for about 3 or 4 days. It's not going to go bad, and you just need to heat it up then. So it's a tea which is quite ecological. It's relatively economical as well, and but it certainly does its job. It will start to really strengthen your liver.
Very good. Well then, Ken, I thank you very much. I will do the same as the other speakers. I'll stop the recording.
Can I ask?
So let me just stop the recording and then we'll take the questions. Thank you, Ken, so much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.